morning everyone, we are Group 3 from R2A Dentistry and today we will be talking about utilitarianism. We spend our time thinking about morality on what makes action morally right and morally wrong. And we want to talk today the very simple and quite popular answer to that question, a moral theory that goes by the name utilitarianism. Utilitarianism is a theory of morality which promotes action that foster happiness or pleasure and opposes effect that cause unhappiness or harm. When developed toward making social, economic, or political decisions, a utilitarian philosophy would aim to make a better society.
The principle of utility. The principle of utility expresses that actions or behaviors are correct as they support happiness or pleasure, wrong as they manage to produce unhappiness or pain. In other words, an action is approved or disapproved based on the tendency it shows to enlarge or diminish the happiness of the people concerned. Utilitarians are those who believe that morality is the effort to make life better by escalating the number of good things in the world. Utilitarians reject moral codes or systems consisting of commands or taboos based on customs, tradition, or orders given by supernatural beings.
The three basic principles of utilitarianism. The first is, happiness is the only thing that genuinely has intrinsic value. The term utilitarianism comes from the word utility, which does not mean useful, but rather pleasure or happiness. The term intrinsic value refers to something that is simply good. Pleasure and happiness are something in that they are treasured solely for our benefit. It is better to be happy rather than sad. This isn't easy to prove. This is indeed what everyone believes. Happiness, according to Mill, is a combination of many varied pleasures. That's why he integrated the two concepts. On the other hand, most utilitarian focuses on happiness, which is precisely what we'll do from now on. The second is, action are right so as far as they promote happiness, wrong as they produce unhappiness. It is a controversial principle. It turns utilitarianism into consequentialism because it states that an action morality is determined by the consequences. The better the step is, the more happiness it brings to others affected by it. So all the things are equal. For instances, presenting a gift to a group of children is beneficial compared to providing an assistance to a single child. Lastly, everyone's happiness counts equally. This may appear to be self-evident moral principle, but it was reasonably radical when Bentham proposed it 200 years ago. It was formerly widely accepted that some lives and happiness they cared were just more essential and valuable than others. Enslavers' lives, for example, were valued higher than those who enslaved people, and a king's well-being valued more elevated than that of a peasant.
After discussing the three basic principles of utilitarianism, now we will discuss about the imperfection of utilitarianism. First, society does not focus on happiness when making choices. Utilitarianism indicates that the only item of intrinsic worth is happiness, but other commodities are worth considering. Having a life is something that gives value to people. Being bound to make your own choices has a particular worth that shouldn't be disregarded. When love is in the picture, the connection that causes this emotional response are present. When we think of utilitarianism, all of these other goods take another value to happiness. You might show love to your spouse, but if they make you unsatisfied one day of any reason, then the moral result is to correct that situation by the fastest, most accessible means possible. That could mean divorce, annulment, separation, or worse. Instead of taking the time to hammer out your issue, over 70% of population who describe their marriage as unhappy with another perspective in 5 years or less. Second, the ends never justify the means when choosing happiness. Utilitarianism proposes that the right thing to do is to kill healthy people and give their organs to the people who are on the transplant list. When it comes to the things like happiness, it's always better for the many than for the few. Next, outcomes are unpredictable when dealing with the future. In utilitarianism, people should look into the future and figure out what will bring them into the most happiness right now. Because nothing in the future is certain, there is no way to put this theory into practice.
Number 4. Happiness is subjective. It is hard to give significance to the happiness that anything or someone provides you anytime. The activities that you decide to try will always bring a high level of joy, if you love your first experience. Each time you repeat that action, the amount of happiness you feel could be less. Utilitarianism produces immeasurable results. Number 5. It makes you have to rely on everyone else to follow the same moral code as you do. In order to be happy, you need to give up the idea of rules, regulations, and laws in society. If you do this, you have to rely on the choices that other people make not to harm you. And as many people say, humans are good. But the truth is that most people will do something against their moral character if they think they can get away with it. Number 6. You cannot measure happiness in tangible ways. Have you ever tried to make the bell ring on a high striker game at an arcade, midway, or fair? When you hit the plate with a hammer, you see a puck rising high enough to ring a bell at the device. This outcome indicates that your strength measurement is strong enough to be successful. Number 7. It would allow the majority of society always to dictate outcomes. We vote in election because the politicians or ideas on the ballot will either succeed or fail based on the majority's preferences. We utilize this approach to vote because the information it gives is representative of the general public. If we've learned anything from the history, it's that when most people agree on something, they intend to impose their will through force on the minority in ways that aren't always ethical or moral. It wasn't so long ago that women couldn't vote, that marrying someone of different skin color was forbidden, and that adultery could result in death in many nations.
How does utilitarianism is related to ethics? Utilitarianism is an ethical theory that arbitrates right from wrong by concentrating on results. It is a form of consequentialism. Utilitarianism retains the most ethical choice is the one that will make the greatest good for the most significant number. Justice and fairness. Justice is an idea of moral rightness that depends on ethics, rationality, law, natural law, religion, or equity. It is also an attitude of being just and fair. It gives what the person deserves in more traditional terms and also gives the person his or her due. Justice and fairness are often used interchangeably today. It is also a distinct understanding of the two terms. Fairness is an act of treating people equally and no one is left out. Fair people follow the rules in their community. They are honest and trustworthy. While justice usually has been used concerning the standard of rightness, fairness often has been used regarding an ability to judge without reference to feelings or interests. Fairness has also been used to touch on the ability in making a judgment that is not overly general, but that is absolute and specific to a particular case. In any event, a notion of being treated as one deserves is necessary for both justice and fairness.
After discussing the definition and meaning of justice and fairness, we will be talking about the 4 types of justice. The first type of justice is so-called as economic justice, or also known as a distributive justice. It is concerned with ensuring that everyone in society has a fair share of the benefits and resources available. While most people believe wealth should be divided, relatively, there is debate regarding what constitutes a fair share. Some possible distribution criteria include equity, equality, and need. Equity indicates that one's benefit should be proportional to one's contribution to society, whereas need-based distribution means that those who need more get less. Fair resource allocation, also known as distributive justice, is crucial to a society's stability and members' well-being.
The second is procedural justice. It is concerned with creating and enforcing decisions by fair procedures that ensure fair treatment. Law must always be applied consistently and impartially to produce an unbiased result. Those who implement policies should be unbiased, and those who are directly affected by the result should have a voice or representation.
Retributive justice. It is founded on the just desert philosophy, which asserts that people should be treated the same way they treat others. It's a punitive method that justifies punishment as retaliation for previous transgression or injustice. The primary idea is that the offender has gained an unfair advantage due to their action, and that punishment will balance things out. People that break the law, to put it another way, the rules should be prosecuted and suffer for the repercussion of their conduct.
The last type of justice is restorative justice systems. According to some, it is more effective. Retributive justice views breaches as crimes against the state or nation, whereas restorative justice views infractions as crimes against individuals. It focuses on mending the wounds of victims, rehabilitating offenders into law-abiding citizens, and mending the damage done to individuals' relationship and the community. The victims plays an active role in shaping the exchange and outlining the offender's responsibility and obligations. Offenders are taught to recognize and accept responsibility for the hurt they have caused their victims. Restorative justice strives to rebuild the community and prevent future injuries from occurring.
Relation to ethics. Social justice is the notion that everyone deserves equal opportunity, irrespective of race, gender, or religion, while fairness is the quality of treating people equally or in a way that is right or reasonable. And utilitarianism is a doctrine that actions are right if they are useful or for the benefit of a majority.
According to Albert Camus, a well-known writer, philosopher, and journalist, a man without ethics is a wild beast loose upon this world. With all the readings being presented, ethics is very vague. It makes you think if really our actions are ethical. And with these solicited ideas, facts, from experts for an action to be purely ethical, it must pass from these standards: the utilitarianism, justice, and fairness, thus making our life miserable yet fascinating. That's why laws and policies are created to guide us to be fair, just, and be utilitarian individuals. With all these readings being presented to you, I hope that you learned something today and apply these things in your daily lives. Thank you and good day.